Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Around the Ballpark podcast. It is the first day of December. We're 24 nights away from Christmas Day, and we are live here on YouTube and on Facebook. My name is Mike Redman. I am here with my co-host, Darren Redman, and we are live episode 54 of the Around the Ballpark podcast. So exciting. Thank each and every one of you listeners and viewers watching along with us for the support. We're going to hit that 1,500 goal by the end of this month. Praise God for that. So very excited and believing that will happen. So just again, thank you. Little curveball tonight. Our guest, something came up last minute. So we will have El Bushman.
Is any truth to the rumor that part of the stadium fell on his head and he is home resting comfortably?
That is exactly what happened. And he'll be fine though. But he'll be back on with us. He's with the Razor Wine Stick podcast. Something came up, so we will reschedule that. So what that means is we're going to have a little fun. We're going to still talk about some Tampa sports, but you, the viewers and listeners, can also be the guest as well by chiming in any questions, things you want us to talk about. Throw your questions, comments, Sunday football comments if you have any from today's games. We just got done watching the Tampa Bay and Carolina. But before we do all of that, we've got to talk about Nashville Tax Solutions, our proud sponsor, with Christopher Bennett.
You know, one thing as we approach the holiday season, and there he is right now for those kids playing at home. Take a look. Chris Bennett, we love him. We're cheering.
Yes.
But all kidding aside, during the holiday season especially, there's so much going on and so many stresses. One thing you don't need is the stress of potential tax problems or thinking about those. Well, I'm here to tell you that whether it's the holiday season or not, Chris Bennett and the fine folks at Nashville Tax Solutions have got you covered. You know, whether you're behind on your returns, you're facing a lien, or just need expert advice, their team is ready to help. Hear what some of the clients have to say. You know, Chris Bennett and his team saved me from a financial nightmare. They're knowledgeable, they're clear, and they're compassionate. So please don't let taxes stress you out. Reach out to Nashville Tax Solutions today. Call 615-502-2250 and visit NashvilleTaxSolutions.com or just send an email at info@NashvilleTaxSolutions.com. Nashville Tax Solutions, where tax resolution is achieved.
Yes, thank you, Darren. And I would like to just keep Chris in your prayers, him and his family a little bit under the weather this past week. So I believe he is at home watching, but he's just recovering, and we're just praying for healing and restoration for the entire family. We were going to get together last night. He wasn't able to make it. So just want to lift him and his family up in prayers. And I'm sure that they'll be healed in no time. So thank you guys again for joining us. And like you said, our guest wasn't able to make it, so we're going to have fun anyway. And I thought we would just get into right here at the beginning. Those of you, one of the topics we were going to talk about is the Tropicana field with the Tampa Bay Rays, and wife is dancing in front of me in the living room. Awesome. Wearing her, she wants to get on there. The Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay.
So I can get a guess that quickly. So Darren, obviously we're aware of the hurricane that hit the west coast of Florida and completely destroyed the roof of Tropicana Field, which then in turn, so much damage, so much in fact that they will not be able to play there at all in the 2025 season. Even 2026 early is a little bit of a stretch. There's so much work to be done. You're talking millions and millions of dollars to get that stadium renovated right before they were going to get a brand new stadium. And there's so much with that. So much to dissect there. But I wanted to start with this. So as you know, they're playing now. They're going to be playing at George Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, which is the home of the minor league Yankees. So the big difference there is George Steinbrenner Field can only hold a capacity of 9,600 fans, whereas Tropicana Field average 17,000 attendance. Now, there are more seats available at Tropicana Field, but they don't sell the upper deck seat. So with that said, that right there alone, you're looking at a 7,000 person difference in how many fans can attend a game. So the first thing there with that is the capacity alone. So do you feel with that difference, are you worried about the ticket prices being a lot higher, a lot raised? I mean, we're spoiled in Tampa. We can go to many games for $10 and get a decent seat. I don't feel like that's going to be the case. They're going to have to make up for this somehow. So what are what do you think about what's going to happen with those ticket prices? Do you feel like it's going to be astronomical or just a slight increase, or starting with that? So I'm interested what your thoughts are.
I think I'm going to have to give it to you straight. I think any marketing person worth their salt, and I said this as when I was talking about the A's, because the A's are in a somewhat similar situation. They're playing in a minor league baseball facility in Sacramento. Any marketing person worth their salt is going to say, here's your opportunity to sit real close. They are going to pound those ticket prices hard, because all they need to do is sell much fewer tickets, less concessions workers, less everything, and talk about the intimacy of the ballpark as they build this brand new thing, and they're going to show it on the scoreboard from time to time. Look at the great things we have. Save your money, folks, because we're going to have some great deals for you in 2 years when the stadium's rebuilt, and it's going to be family friendly and all that other nonsense. While they gouge the corporate dollar, that's what's going to happen, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yep, you're exactly correct. And the other aspect of it too. So those that don't realize, obviously, part of the reason why Tampa Bay and Miami have dome stadiums, have a roof or retractable roof in Miami, is that the heat, obviously, in Florida, once you get to June, July, August, that heat is real. So what they're doing, those that may not know, is they've actually adjusted the schedule where Tampa Bay is playing, I think it's 24 of their first 27 games at home in April, which sounds great. That's big home field advantage. But all of a sudden now, come June, July, August, they're going to be playing 80% of their games on the road to avoid playing so much in the heat. And that's a lot of jet lag going here and there and everywhere. That's a little bit ridiculous, if you ask me. I understand that. I understand playing in the heat or even in the evening, the humidity and everything like that. That's a huge deterrent, for fans to come out.
Is it real? Is that the real reason, or is it because Tampa also houses the Yankee farm system team who's going to play in the summer anyway, and that kind of thing? So I don't know. I think it's a terrible decision. And by the way, the whole minor league system that plays in Florida plays in the summer. They play 6 days a week. They have 1 day a week off. It's BS.
Yeah, and I'm glad you say that, because when I heard this, I was like, okay, they're going to just revamp Tampa Yankees schedule for the minor leagues, but they're not. They're actually just keeping it exactly as is. And then for any game that they have a home game, they're moving them to the backfields, and then the Tampa Bay Rays will be playing at the main field. Not a big fan of that. Obviously, I'm sure there'll still be people that go back there, but that's a stage that they've earned and a stage that they deserve to be on that main field. And so them getting kind of shoved to the back on days like that, I'm not a big fan of that at all. But I get it. But there are better options, and that's where I was going to next. So it was up to you. You had the pen to paper. You got to make that final call. You've heard everyone. You went to a board meeting, and you're making that final decision. What would you have done for this 2025 upcoming season for Tampa?
So here's what and again, I have over almost 40 years worth of sales and marketing. but I'm also a baseball purist and a baseball fan. And I also believe that long-term goals beat short-term gains, and I believe in grace. I would have gone completely opposite. I would have made these discounted tickets. I'd make it really low. I'm already playing the minor league facility. I would use every opportunity to market and market for the betterment long term of the Tampa Bay team that has a tough time getting the seats, get those seats filled. I would be hitting lower economic school systems, hospitals, all that other thing, and just charge them nickels on the dollar to come and watch them play. And I would forego. Now, those people that have corporate seats, I'd either buy them out or say, hey, listen, we'll put whatever it is toward this and build those kind of incentives. But I would make this as family friendly, as low economic friendly as possible. I can market the heck out of that and look like a champ. And that's what you want out of the Rays, because they're playing in a minor league stadium. Instead, they're going to go to the complete opposite.
Now, I agree with everything you just said. Now, if we're talking in terms of location, and I like that comment from Joe, Kevin Cash, I feel a draft. But if we're talking strictly location, what better option other than George Steinbrenner Field would you have chosen?
Well, I tell you, I think you were spot on from the jump. I think Orlando's the place.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
Orlando
was just great.
Yeah, the Rays do own some property for no longer a deserted minor league stadium, so I know some work would have to be done there. They could play in Port Charlotte, where the Rays have their minor league system, but Orlando just seems to me like would have been. And yes, Eileen mentioned that too. Wide World of Sports. That's another great suggestion in the Orlando area, where you're guaranteed. If dollars is what they're looking for, you're guaranteed to have people spend more money in the Orlando area, especially than they would be at a minor league stadium for sure. But
I agree.
So it's ABC. Yep, Joe, also same thing. ABC, Wide World of Sports, Orlando. I understand Tampa fan, they wanting to be loyal to the fan base, and so they don't have to travel as far and everything like that. But let's be honest, we're not talking a 3 to 4 hour drive. We're talking about something reasonable. I would say probably about an hour and a half or so. And if you want to go enough, I understand the season ticket holder is the one most affected here, but Mother Nature did its thing, and you have to pivot. And so it's an unfortunate situation. It really, really is. For those that go to, we've had the baseball road tripper on. We've had Benny Bang Bang, those that have been to every professional stadium. So for guys like that, it's a new place that they haven't got to go to before, and it's a new official Major League Baseball stadium. So that's pretty cool. It's just a shame, and I'm sure that I'm going to still try to go. If the price is manageable, but that is a long hike for a little park where everything's going to be overpriced and things like that. So I don't know. Just the whole situation, and let's move there now. So, if I had to ask you, between moving into a new state, so as of right now, we're sitting here December 1st. The vote hasn't been 100% decided on in terms of where, if the deal is going to happen. Are they going to? Do you feel move into the new stadium before? Maybe a year later than they originally had planned? Do you see that more likely still happening, or do you more likely see them moving to a new city altogether because there's been such a hiccup with council moving forward and just people not coming to an agreement on the funding for the new stadium?
Very good question. I think that there is a good chance the Rays will be gone. I do. And because Salt Lake wants them. Salt Lake would love to have them. The A's, again, I'm going to bring them up, are now in Vegas. Think about that. Colorado, Utah, Nevada. What a little enclave. Seattle. You go to L.A., Arizona. I mean, that's nice. And you already have it. And when you take the rooting for the team out of it for a second, that sounds like a wonderful, kind of. NHL did that. I know we might be talking about, the Lightning in a moment, but that's what the NHL did, right? They moved Arizona where? Salt Lake City.
Right.
So I would hope they would stay in Tampa, but I think they're going to go to Salt Lake.
Yeah, right, because the writing's on the wall. If what we can see happening, if that's what happens and they do move to a new city, whether that's 2028, 2027, whatever the case may be, we'll see a replication of what we just saw in Oakland, where those last 2-3 years, the fan base just gave up on the team. They stopped showing up. I know the stadium was in really bad condition. So I just wish, and I hope that doesn't happen, where they reopen the stadium in poor condition in 2026, patch job just to get it opened. And we're sitting there with less and less fans. They're continuously moving the roster around where they're not giving the fans a reason to actually want to come to the games outside of just seeing it one more time before it's demolished. I really hope that doesn't happen, but it seems like
you know what really stinks about all of that. You look at the Lightning; they've won cups and they have a full-throated fan base. The Buccaneers, same thing. The Rays have that if they just handle it right. Ownership is handling it horribly. And by the way, because they let MLB push them around. For example, the Lightning and Phil Esposito, when he started it all, would never allow the NHL to say, okay, your playoff games are going to be on when everybody's at work. But the Rays don't seem to put up a fuss. You want people in those seats. That was an embarrassment. And it's not because of the Tampa Bay fan at all. People have to go to work.
Yeah, people have to go to work. And
that's not a nice thing to say about me, Eileen. I know I'm dingy and moldy, but I try my best.
Now, shifting off of the whole movement just for a moment, what are your thoughts, us being Met fans? Jose Siri to the New York Mets in this offseason. Surprised by that move. Not so much that Tampa's letting someone else go. I kind of saw the writing on the wall with that one. But where does he fit in with the Mets' current roster?
I'm going to defer to you because I wanted to have a back channel discussion with you on that because I'm not that familiar with him.
So he's someone I'm very familiar with. He's a hothead. There's times we'll watch the game and we're like, this guy's got to get himself checked, before he wrecks himself. Like he doesn't think before he speaks. However, he is a hustler. He does have some pop. And meeting him in person, actually got to see a different side of him that we actually, and Eileen and I, Eileen actually is the one that mentioned it, where we're so used to seeing it one specific way on TV, just the way he catches fly balls and goes back and forth, Bush League stuff. But then he was, him and Rosarina were the two there signing autographs, smiling, taking pictures, just always in a happy mood, regardless, because he's not even somebody that got to play every game, but he went from a role with Houston where he's just kind of coming off the bench. Then he came into Tampa, didn't get to play that much right off the bat. And then they got him in there and all of a sudden his batting average is low, but he was getting 20 to 25 home runs. So he's someone that the Mets probably saw, this guy can get a little pop for us, but that low batting average does concern me. Mm-hmm. And I can see a platoon thing. And with a team with the payroll they have, why are we going the platoon route? I understand having a solid bench, but he's not the kind of guy that's going to sit there. He's too talented to sit there 5 days a week on the bench, but he can get the pop, and maybe they're looking at him as a 3 to 4 day a week player. But I just not convinced that I'm not even convinced they're going to keep him on the team before the spring training. I could see that.
I don't think so either. Yeah. I think he's leverage on other moves. If we lose people in free agency, we lose some other people in some trades. I think he's just a leverage guy right now. Because with the Mets, Juan Soto is going to just dictate everything else, including Pete Alonso. Yeah, because you'll overpay for Pete if Juan goes, and if Juan comes, it's not they're going to jettison, in my opinion, Pete. You're just not going to overpay for Pete.
Right. Now, another thing I could say for Siri, because I'm familiar with him too, is he is somebody who I could see the rapport with Lindor. Like I could see them getting along and smiles in the clubhouse and all is good when they're winning. But when it's bad, he's a different person. When things are good, he's the perfect teammate. But when things get bad, he tends to lose his cool a bit, and that immaturity shows right off.
We don't need another Jeff McNeil.
Right. We don't need that. And quick shout out. We have 11 viewers right now. That is awesome. Thank you guys. I know it is.
Love everything about that.
Yes, Sunday evening, and you have other places you could have been, but you know better. You come to this podcast, guest or no guest. And like we said at the beginning, if you guys have any questions, Tampa Bay related, anything related to sports in general.
I see we have a request about free agent predictions, and we can definitely get into that. But I have to ask one sort of Tampa Bay Ray thing, because again, both you and Eileen, you know Tampa, you're the heart and soul. You know everything about them. And I know the roster, and I know some of the players, and I watch some of their games. But like, for example, I follow Rhea Ramirez on TikTok. Her husband played for Tampa up and down, spent most of the time in the minors. What kind of ball player is he as a pitcher? Because I know he's a free agent right now. Segue, kids. Notice, Kevin, you like that segue? Thank you.
So he's kind of in the middle of the pack. So he's not someone where you're moaning and groaning when you see him coming out from the bullpen. You're like,
Doug Sisk.
Like the whole expression, what is it? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Mm-hmm. A lot of the bullpen guys are the definition of insanity. It's like, okay, come on now. We know what's going to happen. You're going to give up 2 runs. Mets fan, Jose 2-run Buto. That's all he did.
That's right.
2 runs every single time. He was consistent, but he always gave up those two home runs. And so with him, he's not somebody where he's not a difference maker, but he's a guy that's going to eat up some innings. He's going to make a good pitch here and there. He's got some power stuff. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. I don't. He's not a difference maker. I'll say that, but he can do worse.
He's a journeyman.
Yeah, he's a journeyman. Yep. Mm-hmm. And that, like you mentioned, that question. And Kevin, great to see you in here. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. So, any free agent predictions from around the league? So, Darren, I'll start with you. We're here early December. Usually we don't see much until around Christmas time or a little bit after, but every once in a while there's the occasional tease. I know there was some fake social media stuff going around with Soto to Boston. That was clearly not the thing. But what are your early thoughts on some big free agent names that are out there?
Well, I think everything starts and ends with Soto. I mean, Blake Snell, for example, going to the Dodgers. I was like, I mean, you think about it. I mean, he's a very good pitcher. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking any of his flowers away. But Padres and now the Giants and okay, he's a lefty. All right, take him. He's good. Move on. But I don't know. Grandal. Where's he gonna go? It's all Soto. It's Alonso. It's I don't know what's going to happen with Anthony Rizzo, for example.
Yeah,
everybody wants these top guys, but does Rizzo, who's older, does he go back to the Yankees? Do the Yankees make a push for Alonso and push out Rizzo? In that case, where does he go? See, that's what I love. I like those kind of free agents that can make the difference on the team.
Right, because I would rather have – I know Soto is the hot, sexy pick, but I would prefer 3 high-capacity Bs over just Soto for sure. Now, I'm not saying I don't want Alonso back because I do. I would prefer Alonso over Soto. I'm probably the minority in saying that. But there are some additional names too. For example, Clayton Kershaw obviously passed the prime of what he was, and staying healthy is a challenge for him. But he is a free agent this year, and they just, with that rotation, they're not bringing him back. So he's going to go somewhere else. I'm not sure what team is a perfect fit for him, but it'll be interesting to see because there was a time Jacob deGrom, if he could have stayed healthy, easily one of the best pitchers of all time. I feel the same way with Clayton Kershaw. Like, he was this generation's like top guy for quite a while. I saw him in the minor leagues. I got the opportunity in Vero Beach to see him quite a few times. And it was just not fair to see him in some of these minor league games just blowing away opponents from, 19, 20-year-olds on different teams. But I think you're right. I think it starts with Juan Soto. I think now if it goes till January and he hasn't moved, then maybe we start seeing some pieces. But I feel like that's going to be the move. And then after that, then the market's going to dictate, who goes where. If you're asking me right now where Juan Soto ends up, it's tough. I think it's down to 4 teams, right? I believe it's Los Angeles, New York, Boston, and Toronto. Don't see Toronto happening. If he does go to the Dodgers, it's gonna be some difficult conversations to be had, because that is not best for baseball to have a team with that kind of lineup.
Go ahead.
No. I was saying, so I really don't know. Is there a chance that New York Yankees are still in the mix, in your opinion, or is it just?
Oh yeah, I think that they have to sign him.
Yeah,
I think they have to, because
and I know it's not going to be the. I could see Soto going back to the Yankees and Alonso going back to the Mets. I know that's an exciting, but I don't see the Mets.
Here's what I see the Yankees trying to do. I see the Yankees trying to get Pete Alonso and Juan Soto.
They would do that, wouldn't they?
No, of course. Yeah. Oh, see that? Eileen said the same thing, because Eileen knows. She back channeled me.
I want to ask this with all the.
Well, hold on a second. We're talking about all these players. I think the steal of the free agent season, and Kev, if you're still on, I'd love to hear what you think. Max Fried.
Yeah, Max Fried, and
really good pitcher. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Roki Sasaki is a good thought, but he's not technically a free agent yet. But the Dodgers are going to try to gobble him up. I'd love for the Mets again. But by the way, don't you think that Kev Olsen, I'm sorry, I saw you had Sasaki, you were asking about him. I'm getting worried about these Japanese pitchers with their arm injuries.
Yeah, so with that said, so let's just look real quick at the surface, and I want to get into where I think Sasaki's going to wind up in just a moment. But we look at the Dodgers and what they accomplished last season. That was without Shohei Ohtani pitching a single game. That was without Clayton Kershaw, even though he was a shell of what he was. That was without Tyler Glasnow. So you're looking at a team now that is going to have a healthy Glasnow. They're going to have Shohei Ohtani. They just added Blake Snell. If they add Sasaki as well, I guess maybe they're going to go to a 6-man rotation to protect the arm of Ohtani. I don't know. But you're exactly right. I'm worried a little bit about that, and I think the only way to prevent that is to go to a 6-man rotation, and they're more than capable of pulling that off with who they have already, because their number 5 pitcher can be a number 2 for pretty much every other team in the league. So where Sasaki winds up, I don't think it will be the Dodgers. I think they are a favorite, of course. The Padres do seem like a likely candidate. I feel that it might be Boston in this case. I think Boston seems like a team to me that's going to miss out on a couple people, and they're going to overspend a little bit. I know the favorites right now, like you said, are the Dodgers and the Padres, but I could see someone like him going to Boston based on not able to get the top people on their wish list. But that's, and that's the beauty of free agency. There's no right or wrong answers until it's official.
No, yeah, I mean,
legitimate people. We just don't know.
If I am a plan B kind of team, and it's weird to say Fried to the Mets, I would love that, by the way. Thank you, Kevin. I would love Fried to the Mets. I'd love Jack Flaherty to the Mets as well. I mean, these players hunt, but these are the same kind of players that are going to end up going to Boston. Because let me tell you something about the Yankees, and there's no Yankee hate here, all right? They had to walk in the park to make the World Series. I think the first round they played the Little Sisters of the Poor, right? I think that's who they played. And then they played Walgreen Junior High School backup B team, in the division series. the Orioles were the team to beat early in the season. They kind of faded out. I think they're losing some people. I think the Orioles, I think the Red Sox, I think teams like that are going to try to get these people like the Freeds, Sasaki. They're gonna go for it because that's really all they need. Because all you have to do is get in the playoffs, and we know what can happen. Anybody can beat anybody.
Yeah, and I think if I'm not mistaken, the Angels are the team that seems to be making the most. No big splashes, but they seem to be the ones making.
Travis Delno is now on the Angels.
Yes,
he's the difference. He's the difference. There's Ruth, Eric, Travis.
Only because he left the Mets. That seems to be.
Yes. No, but I really am grateful for him making the last out this past playoffs against the Mets. Bye, Braves.
But I do love, and Kev, that's a great, with Fried to the Mets. I think there's going to be before this season, there was no doubt who this was the New York Mets. Now, with what we saw in the short time we've seen in the postseason, there's a little doubt. But again, he was still pitching in spring training mode. So I wasn't a fan of him at that point. Once you make it to October 1st, I think it's just a done deal and you just shut down for the rest of the season. So I think it's unfair to judge him on we're talking about the Mets ace that didn't get to pitch all year because of injury, but so he's still a number one guy, but we do need a Max Fried on our team or Bueller on our team for sure. I think that would really
I can't forget about Bueller. Bueller would be great. Bueller would be a great pickup.
Yeah, and as good as Sean Manaea was and Severino, we kind of caught lightning in a bottle with both those. So to expect us to get both and that they pitch at the same level they did last year might be asking a little bit much. So I would much rather, Soto sounds great, but I would much rather grab those two arms and let's go, at that point. Where do you think, and I know we had some other topics we'll get into here shortly, but just because we're there, which New York Mets do you see not on the roster next season?
I hope I'm wrong, but Pete Alonso.
Yeah, does that mean that Marte and McNeil are still Mets then, or
no? McNeil's gone.
I
know, and it stinks too. Is McNeil's a great hitter? He just has to get his head out of his collective head. He thinks too much.
He does.
He's too. He does. I'm into this whole mindfulness meditation. I'm a big believer in it. But sometimes you do it too much. And that's him. He's a little too intense. If he just kind of put it down to a 10, I think he'd be fine. I'd love to keep him, but right now, where are you going to play him?
Yeah, that's it. Now, also, the OMG, where do we see Iglesias next year?
I want him back.
You do want him back. I know he didn't perform in the postseason too well, but he was what he was, and I feel like even if he's coming off the bench, how can you pass on him right now? So,
you know who else didn't perform? In the World Series, we had a lot of Ohtani didn't perform in the World Series, much less the playoffs. I mean, so I don't look at the microcosm of one series, one round, couple of weeks. I look at the whole ball, enchilada, as the kids say.
Ooh, enchilada sounds good. Sorry, I'm back.
It does.
So, just pivoting for just a moment, and I know we're some other Tampa sports we were going to talk about. We might get to some of those. We might talk about those once.
We can punch some down the road.
But I do want to touch a base as the Buffalo Bills right now are playing at home in the snow against San Francisco. And shout out to all the staff at Buffalo for getting that stadium as in good condition as possible to get ready for this game where it's just snowing even more. Just for a quick moment about the Thanksgiving Day football games that took place. It was such a nice change of pace to see the Detroit Lions have such a strong team. Get to see them on Thanksgiving. They played. They didn't play a perfect game by any means. They could have. You could make an argument shouldn't have actually won that game. Chicago played. They finished strong, I believe, but they got the win. That's all that matters. Those divisional games, you just escape with a win. That's all that matters. So. Yes, and you mentioned OMG did bring the morale to the postseason for sure with the Mets. The OMG, the Grimace, and the Playoff Pumpkin. Shout out to all three of those people. But and then there's the Dallas Giants game. Someone had to win that game, of course, and then you finish with the Dolphins losing pretty significantly. So did you get to, when you came home late, I know we had talked about you would work that day. Did you catch anything, like just highlights? Did you watch a little bit of the game?
Yeah. So a couple of things. The Bears should have won that game. And I'm really rooting hard for the Lions this year. Because God knows why I root for the Jets. You might as well root for, I don't know, sea monkeys. So, except sea monkeys are actually tougher. The Bears were in position to win. And they mismanaged the last 30 seconds of that game. So here's what happened. In my opinion, in a nutshell. Now remember, just give you my observation. But remember, the next day, the head coach was fired. Now, I don't blame the head coach, but you got to blame somebody. You can't fire a team. It was mismanaged because Caleb Williams, the quarterback, kind of started to get the apple. A lot was going on. Do I call a timeout? Do I not call a timeout? Hurry up. People were not in the proper positions. And he's like, hurry up, get in position, just hoping for the best. And you are going to fail when you hope for the best. That's not a plan. Failure to plan is a plan to fail. We know that, right? And that's what happened. They literally ran out the clock. And they should have called this timeout. That's when a head coach needs to say, it's just a lot of activity out there. And none of it's good. I got to call timeout. And that never happened. And they left the win on the table on Thanksgiving Day. So that's my thoughts there. Cowboys Giants, I think you hit it on the head. Who cares? It was like two average at best teams. You had Drew Lock, who's the second string quarterback, but it's really the third string quarterback, and then the first string is now the third string. Oh, I'm exhausted just saying all that. And then you had the backup, for Dallas. Who cares? It was nice. And then, think about the Friday game. What do you think of the Friday game? With the Raiders and the Chiefs. There again, the Raiders gave up the game. Chiefs find a way to win.
Now, you were looking at Kansas City record the way it is, and I believe I said this last week, but I believe, I know it would be in Kansas City, but week 2 of the NFL playoffs this year, insert road team here defeating Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs out first round, so technically second round because they'll have the bye because of all these wins. I don't see the Chiefs getting past. I don't see the Chiefs getting one playoff win this year, and I know that's a bold statement, but if we really dissect,
I think you're spot on.
I think if we dissect a lot of these games, I mean, Carolina, I love Carolina. They're my team. Last second field goal to beat Carolina against. They should have lost against the Raiders. So many other games, you can insert several other ones there, but so many different chances where they came out with a win. That's great and all. But
by the way, I'm going to stop you right there. Can I say praise to your Carolina Panthers? Let me tell you something. Since Bryce is back in the lineup, they lost again today in overtime. They're playing really well. They're fun to watch.
Yep. Yeah, they really are. And that's what they have now is a franchise quarterback. Now they're 3-9. Nothing's going to happen this season, but it doesn't matter. They're playing like their games mean something. And I'm excited to see how they finish this year strong. And they're no longer, I don't care that they're 3-9, they're no longer the laughing stock. Because up till 4 weeks ago, them scoring a touchdown was a joke. Like that wasn't going to happen. And now, look at them now, still 3-9, but in a division that. But
they're on the come. They're playing
6-6.
good. They're playing well.
Yeah, and Atlanta, and now Atlanta technically holds a tiebreaker over Tampa Bay because they're both 6-6, but Atlanta have beaten them twice already early on this season. Next week, though, Atlanta travels to Minnesota, so that's definitely not a gimme right there. So some interesting games to be had as the season continues. And let me just say, we talked about this a little bit. I think it was last week too, but becoming such, again, a huge fan of Jameis Winston and what he's doing in Cleveland right now, and just the positivity, the goofiness, the passion when he does play. I know he's, the guy that can throw the interception. We make fun of that a little bit, but he's somebody that is doing the best with a second chance more than most people in recent memory. And I don't expect Cleveland to go very far this year, of course, but how encouraging it is to, as a person who walked away from football for many years, finally getting back into it this year and seeing that he's got Jesus Christ right up there before anything else. I've become a fan again of what I used to see back in the early, his early career. So definitely enjoying that.
Oh no, absolutely. I love a wonderful redemption story, and that's what it's about. I mean, you know what I do for a living, and that's what it's about. So people say they overpaid for him. There's no such thing. Two sides agree on what a price should be, and that's what it should be. Who am I just to tell how much a person should spend for money, or for a player? Excuse me, just with some sound going on in the background. But he's fun to watch, and he's not just goofy for goofy's sake. He's being his true self, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing I did want to get into a little bit, we don't have to deep dive as much because I know this hour has flown by. I do want to talk just a little bit of hockey if we can. Specifically, we'll deter a little bit on the Tampa Bay Lightning talk, just so when we have them on and whatnot. But I want to ask you two questions. Number one, so there's some sports where there's debates where, in person or on TV. So for me personally, I'm a little bit different. I would prefer football on TV rather than in person on the NFL level. Completely different on the college level.
Agreed. By the way, I agree with you 100%.
Baseball, I like them both equally the same. I know most people prefer to be baseball in person versus baseball on TV. With hockey, is there anyone that prefers TV over in person? I can't imagine like the majority. That's a very
people who can't afford the ticket or can't get to the game. It's so next level in person. The sounds, the smells. I mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago, and for those of you who are with us live, and boy, you should be. And where are you going? We're here. That I went to see the cast of Shorzy play the Boston Bruins alumni, and I was able to go into the locker room, go backstage, all that stuff. And it's not just because you get to meet the folks. The sounds, the smells, the action, how fast it is. It's invigorating. And I don't care if you're sitting 18,000 seats way up top. You feel it. There's a reason why outdoor hockey games get 70, 80,000 people to go to. It's an event. It's live. If you have never been to a hockey game live, can't explain it. You got to do it. It's amazing.
Yeah, and the fact that I have not been to an NHL game, I've been to Orlando Solar Bears minor league hockey. Great experience. I just can't believe it. But so that's definitely on the to-do list. But with hockey too. So again, I think I kind of was saying that in kind of joking around. Obviously, in person, tremendous experience. Fan or not a fan, you're going to enjoy yourself for many different reasons. But is it more challenging or less challenging to describe the game of hockey? Let's say that you're taking somebody to their first ever game that doesn't really have any knowledge at all of the sport. Like hockey compared to professional football or Major League Baseball in terms of defining how the game works. Like if you're sitting there in a seat, you're having some popcorn, hot dog, and you're really just trying to explain to person B over here, okay, this means that, and this is this. Do you feel like that person going to get confused? Is it less confusing, more confusing than from the other sports to describe? What do you thought on that?
Sincerely, I believe that is the best question I've ever heard asked regarding hockey. Seriously. And here would my answer to that. This is my answer to that. I would tell the person I was with, just watch, and if you have a question, ask. Because it's a game that's a vibe. And why was the play stopped? Well, the puck went over the boards, into the stands, and now we got to do another face-off, which means we got to trap the puck. Well, why was the game stopped? Well, this person was offsides. What's offsides? And you explain what that is. That's the way that I would explain it to somebody who's never been to a game before. And by the third period, they'll be cheering with everybody else.
Yep. Now, how long is so those that may not understand, so with hockey, there's not 4 quarters, there's 3 periods. Typically, like a 15-minute break in between each? Is that
15 to 20 minutes.
15 to 20. I feel like you can't help but leave an NHL game. Even though I haven't been, I feel like the same conversation is had by everyone that goes for the first time. They get in the car, man, what have I been missing out on? Like, why haven't I gone before? And for me, I think living in the area I do, have to really dig to find an NHL game on TV. I don't have cable, so I have a lot of the different apps, but it's just not readily available as often. I would love to kind of give some different teams a chance just to see, but I wish it was a little bit more easily accessible here in the Florida market. I know we have the Florida Panthers, which are a great team, Tampa Bay Lightning, great team.
They won the Stanley Cup. You don't get any better.
Yeah, but it still shouldn't be that difficult to find that locally.
Oh, I agree. It's a strong niche sport, unfortunately. I wish it was more popular, but it's very rabid. I'm talking to you, right? You with wrestling, WWE. It's a strong niche market. It's very similar in terms of the fan base. They love it, but WWE is actually on TV more than hockey.
Yeah, definitely. And
go ahead.
What I was going to say here, had a few people wondering about some of the scores there, so I wanted to make sure you got the opportunity to see some of the scores there today. Bills 49ers is actually in progress, so just some scores there for you. But going back to NHL just for a moment as we start to wrap things up for today, there's been some great NHL special games, obviously, throughout the years where they play at a facility that's not of the norm, not one of the typical stadiums and whatnot. Is there one on your list that has not, like, location-wise, that has not happened yet, that you're like, that's
oh my God. It's a great question. Actually, segues into the one question I have for you.
Okay.
A couple months, and shame on me for not having the date in front of me. The Blue Jackets, I forget who they play, will be playing at the U. At the U at Ohio State, 105,000 seat stadium, outdoors. And you know what? There's going to be 105,000 people there. Think about that. How great is that?
Parking duty. Congratulations.
Yes, that is so unbelievable. Now, may I ask a very quick question? I know we have to go. Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Because you're a man of faith and you know sports like anybody's business and you like to win. You're competitive as all heck. Is there any excuse for sticking the flag in the middle of a college football game at the end of the game when your team wins? And do you fault the players? Do you fault the coaching staff? Do you fault everybody who's involved? Walk me through that, please.
So, and I know, and what we're referring to, the Michigan-Ohio State game, and then I believe it was about a month ago, right, where it happened with Florida State and Florida as well. So in that situation, obviously the player's an adult, do what he does and whatnot, but it has to, yes, that individual, knows better, and there should be no excuse for that. However, it doesn't seem, when that happened, the boundaries were not set from the beginning. So, this is what is expected. Hoorah, and then move on. No, it needs to be, this is what's expected, and if this gets crossed, this is the consequence. And I struggle with that myself. I am somebody who wants to give everybody a second, third, fourth, fifth chance. I'm not someone who likes confrontation. I like to sometimes bury my head in the sand, or I like to give them just the benefit of the doubt all the time. But with that said, there's certain things that I will be that aggressive, that assertive person, especially my job and my wife's job with children's ministry is not something I take lightly. And if there's ever a time where, any child is in danger, we're going to do what needs to be done. I don't care how uncomfortable that's going to make me be. With that said, in this realm, this is something that should have been explained. Like anything like that ever happens, it's an instant. You're out of here, no questions asked. Just go to the locker room, just go home at that point. That should never be something that happens where it's just like, oh, you shouldn't have done that, and here's a fine, or here's a 1-game suspension. No, that should be something that the fear of God should be put into every individual, where if something like that were to happen, you're embarrassing yourself, you're embarrassing the name, disrespecting the name on this jersey, and no tolerance for something like that.
So you just triggered a wonderful memory. I'll be real quick. I know we have to go. Mike Singletary, Hall of Fame linebacker with the Chicago Bears, man of faith, later became the head coach of the 49ers. And he wasn't there very long. But one play in particular, there was a player on the field named Vernon Davis. And Vernon Davis was loudly gagging, call it what you want, and then making it all about him. In the middle of the game, now Mike Singletary, as I said, he's a man of faith, he's also a competitor. He not only took him out of the game during the game, he felt that Vernon Davis was not respecting the game enough. He had him go into the locker room and take his pants off. Years later, Vernon Davis said, and I quote, "That was the best thing to ever happen to me."
Yeah, because the clear lines were drawn. Nothing would have, a slap on the wrist, a fine wouldn't change the mindset, like where it's instilled in there, like, hey, I know I'm going to lose my temper sometimes. Mm-hmm. We're all human. We're playing competitive sport, but this is something that if I get that irate, I'm walking away, throwing my helmet if I have. I'm completely removing myself from the situation, because some words are going to be said. But something like that is a choice. It's not an accidental thing that's going to happen or a spur of the moment thing. This is a choice that I'm going to disrespect my team. Our city stands for what they stand for. That's a clear choice of lack of maturity, and that's, in this case, I don't know what's going to become of it, but I agree with Vernon Davis. That's something that I'm sure made him a better person and realize what they are doing, they get to do. They don't have to do it. They get to be taken away just like that. That's one thing at our church that I love the most. We say we don't have to serve, but we get to serve. And I think that gets sometimes on how fortunate and how quick things can be taken away just that quickly. There's no guarantees, and so making the most of every moment and not acting a fool and doing something like that.
Oh yeah, no, you know what I do for a living, and the people that I am privileged to work alongside, my staff, we all say the same thing. It's we get the opportunity to serve, and they get an opportunity to play. And you talk about spur of the moment. You and I could be a hothead for spur of the moment, but isn't it calculated? Oh, we won the game. Let me go get a flag. It's very calculated. It's not a spur of the moment thing.
Right.
So, just by nature, it's not. No. It's a calculated decision. And a bad one.
Now, we say things in the heat of the moment. I remember with my son many a times where I'm so irate, and I'll say the most ridiculous thing, or I'll say a punishment that is beyond ridiculous. And, you've lost this for 9 instead of electronic.
98 years.
I'm taking 98 years, and then you're going to stay with me in the living room. We're going to stare at each other for, then it's like, oh, this is a punishment to me at this point. What am I doing?
That's right. But why did I just punish myself?
Take a few minutes before I go. I'm not that kind of person to go right in there, and because I'm going to say something that's a bit silly. I'm trying to get better at that because I do need to be a little bit more where I don't have to process everything first, like have that better filter. But I'm a work in progress, and that's okay. So
This
but
was great. This was
this
great,
is
Mike.
fun, and I love. And I want to shout out to all the 53 guests that we've had on. But this has been very enjoyable because I think, and some people have mentioned too, they really enjoy what we do. But this is an opportunity where they get to know us a little bit better. We love all the guests that we have on, but they get to know our hearts a little bit too, because we typically have a guest on, we talk about some things, and we're a little bit goofy and knowledgeable and all that kind of stuff. But this was a lot of fun because, and just shout out to everyone that joined us tonight. Again, it's a late night, I know that, but thank you for choosing us again, and just continue to subscribe and share so we can get to that 1,500 by the end of this year.
Please.
Yes, please do. Don't be one of those people that don't. So, but thank you again, lifting up Christopher Bennett and his family in prayers. We will be here again next Sunday night at 8:00. We'll have a guest on. Not sure who just yet, but we'll have a guest. Until next time, though, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you around the ballpark.